What's up everyone, it's Connor with The Chronicler, and today I'll be talking about my top 5 favorite manga. Now I'm also going to throw in some honorable mentions here, and in the honorable mentions it might be because I haven't finished the series. Some of the series in my top 5 also are not complete, but that's more because the series is still running. But I've loved what I've read so far. So let's start out with the honorable mentions, and my number 1 honorable mention is Yu Yu Hakusho. So I grew up reading the Shonen Jump magazine. My sister and I would get it mailed to us about every month or so, and we did that for years. And Yu Yu Hakusho was one of the things that was in the magazine for a good amount of time, and I just absolutely loved it. You know, shonen battle manga, kind of dark fantasy. It was dark enough. And if you think that like Dragon Ball, you know, for tournament arcs, Yu Yu Hakusho's tournament arcs are also just so damn good, and there's quite a few of them. So I never finished out the whole run of Yu Yu Hakusho, and I know the author was also working on Hunter x Hunter. So I've never read Hunter x Hunter or watched the anime on that. That's definitely something I need to get around to. Quite a few of my friends love that anime. So we'll see if I get back to it. And I know Hunter x Hunter is one of the ones that's, you know, long hiatus, but that guy for a while, it sounds like he basically put the Shonen Jump on his back and carried the publisher through some rough times there. But yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho is great. Pretty fun early on, and then gets into some great stuff when you got the whole crew and some great battles going on there. So always fun to see the power skills, but towards the end definitely fell on some rougher art. And I know some people aren't the biggest fans of how things end up at the very end there. Seems like with a lot of mangakas, they live a not very healthy lifestyle. Unfortunately, they're kind of ground to dust. So probably just wanted to be done with it all ultimately, but still fantastic and wanted to mention here on the list. The next honorable mention is definitely something that would be in the top 5 if I read more of it in the manga format, and that's Full Metal Alchemist. I actually have a lot of these manga volumes, and I had them when I was growing up, so I have a decent chunk of it, but not the whole series. Absolutely love the manga. I originally got into Full Metal Alchemist because at my friend's house, my sister and I were there, kind of our neighbors back in the day when we were growing up. We would watch Full Metal Alchemist, the original animation, on Adult Swim. That's kind of how we discovered it and ran into it. And then that led to me going to Barnes & Noble, reading the volumes that they had there, and picking up what I could when my parents would let me buy a manga volume. So absolutely loved Full Metal Alchemist. Haven't read the whole manga. I've read a pretty substantial amount of it, but I have watched all of Brotherhood, which is a more faithful adaptation of the manga. Brotherhood's definitely one of my top favorite animes of all time, so love it. Not a whole lot more to say on this. I did play one of the DS Full Metal Alchemist games growing up, so I definitely have this long love of Full Metal Alchemist in my heart. And also I feel like it's one of the main shonens that was popular that was outside of the Shonen Jump over here in the West. A lot of the stuff was really just Shonen Jump material. Let's hop on over to the next one though. All right, and then the final honorable mention is 20th Century Boys. If you see right here on my shelf, this is actually the whole run and the omnibus format of it, including the 21st Century Boys. I got through probably 2 years back now. I read through like the first 4 of the omnibuses. Absolutely loved them. And then I think they were still getting put out at the time, and I waited because I had to go buy the remaining ones. So there was a kind of a break there, and there was a lot going on in 20th Century Boys. You're kind of bouncing back and forth between time, like the future and the past. So there's a lot to keep track of there. And I just wanted to go back and reread the whole series and just kind of blast through it. When I read manga, usually I binge whatever I'm reading. So that's definitely a series that maybe this year or next year, I'm just going to binge all the way through it. And based off what I've read already, I think it's going to probably go into my top 5 pretty easily, knocking something else off the list here. But as for now, I can't say that it's in that level just because I haven't read enough of it. But definitely looking good for the future. All right, with all the honorable mentions out of the way, let's jump on into the top 5 now. So some of these on the lower parts of the top 5 could probably be switched around, depending on how I'm feeling at the day. The number 1 and number 2 are pretty much locked. But number 5 today, we've got Made in Abyss. Absolutely love Made in Abyss. And I got put onto it from watching the first season of the anime, and then there was quite a long break. Made in Abyss is just such an interesting, crazy world. You know, there's this hole in the ground. If you're not familiar, there's this giant hole in the ground with just unknown treasures and beauties and crazy things. And the deeper you go down, the more insane things get. And it's very difficult for people to ascend. There's like the ascending curse, and it does some pretty bad stuff to people. And if you get low enough, you basically can't ascend anymore. So we follow some of our explorers down to the deepest depths of the abyss. I don't know if anybody's played Etrian Odyssey before, but kind of give me Etrian Odyssey vibes of just exploring this wonderful labyrinth abyss, and seeing what crazy things are down there. There's relics. One of our main characters is this kind of crazy relic, super powerful, and can kind of break the rules of the abyss in some ways. So really love the series. One thing I will say is that it's definitely not for everybody. There's some really kind of messed up stuff in there. And also the manga, sometimes it's hard to tell what the hell is going on from the way things are drawn or paneled. And I think that's one area where the anime does have the edge over it. So the way that I read Made in Abyss is I watched the first season and then I jumped on from that point to reading the manga. And I don't remember how much of it was out at the time. And I think I was near the end of university, or maybe like sophomore year of university when I got onto it. So I read like through the Bondrewd arc and a little and past there to wherever the manga was at the end of the time. The Bondrewd arc is my favorite part of Made in Abyss. Some really dark, good stuff happens there. And then the anime kind of adapted and picked up from there. I watched the Bondrewd movie because they did a movie of that arc. And that I really felt like I liked how the manga handled that a lot more. From what I remember, the movie felt pretty rushed on that whole arc, which was a bummer for me because that was my favorite part of the whole series. And then from there on out, some of the art really was like, it was hard for me to exactly decipher some of the scenes sometimes. My girlfriend agreed with me. She loves Made in Abyss. And she was also like, man, sometimes it's just hard to understand what the heck is even trying to be conveyed in some of these panels. So then there's been adaptations since then going further on. And I do like the new season of Made in Abyss. That was also really good. And it seems like the author takes his time writing the series. And I think he helped out quite a bit with the anime too. So looking forward to where the series has gone. Since I haven't read past where the end of the second season goes. I've read through like the second season and then watched it, but I haven't read past there. I've kind of been keeping tabs on it. So when there's enough out, I'll go and blast through it, but it comes out at a slow pace also. All right, at number 4, we kind of have a 4-way tie, and that has to go to Tatsuki Fujimoto, who is the author of Chainsaw Man. That's what he's most well known for. And the tie is between Chainsaw Man, Look Back, and Goodbye Eri. Look Back and Goodbye Eri are one-shots, just amazing, just fantastic. They're so short. They're on my shelf back here too. And Look Back's been adapted. I hope Goodbye Eri gets adapted too. I need to watch the adaptation of Look Back, but Fujimoto, I think it's been known that he just loves cinema, and especially with Goodbye Eri. And you just get this full love of cinema, the way that it's paneled and just the presentation, absolutely amazing. And the content of the story itself in Goodbye Eri. Definitely depending on the day, I could go back and forth between either one of these for which I like more. Absolutely fantastic for both of them, and you should read them. It would take you like one setting to get through them. And then there's Chainsaw Man also. So all these are tied, like I said, could bounce back and forth between any of them for what takes the 4th spot. The first arc of Chainsaw Man, so there's kind of 2 main sagas of Chainsaw Man now. Part 2 is still going. Part 1, I read that so fast, absolutely just sped through it. The pacing's crazy in Chainsaw Man. I read it before it got the adaptation. I think the adaptation's great. I know some people don't like it that much, and I think it was more in Japan where there was issues with it, but it captures that cinematic vibe that Fujimoto seems to love so much. Just such an unhinged series, and I don't remember when I really fell in love with it, but man, the end of the first part of Chainsaw Man is just so good. So many good reveals and just crazy shit happening. The pacing is off the wall. The humor is crazy also. You grow to really become attached to these characters. And part 2 now, I've been reading part 2 since it started. It's the only thing manga-wise I've been reading week to week, and I've been doing it for probably a couple of years now. However long part 2 has been running, been reading it week to week just on the Shonen Jump app. Really enjoy it. I think there's people generally like it less than part 1, maybe because you kind of get 2 main protagonists now and you swap points of view. The stories kind of converge now, so you kind of get both of them at the same time. But I still really enjoy part 2. I think that reading it over this longer period of time has probably made me not love it quite as much as part 1. Still like it a lot, and I'm sure if I binged all the way through it, I would love it a lot too. The fast pacing of Chainsaw Man just really works well in that binge kind of blast method. So when part 2 is done, I'll go back and reread the whole thing in a binge. But like I said, I've been keeping up week to week on this one, and this is basically the only manga that I've been keeping up week to week on for a couple years now. Now, number 3 is something that I just absolutely love. It's like a foundational thing for me, and that is Dragon Ball Z. This is another one where I didn't have all of the manga volumes. I have read all of the manga, but I didn't own all of the manga volumes. But what I would do is I'd buy my favorite parts and have them. This is also something that we'd get in the Shonen Jump magazine, so we had a lot of it there in the nice big format for the magazines. But I would go buy my favorite fights, basically, and I did this for Naruto also. Naruto's not anywhere on this list, though. But for Dragon Ball, I'd go buy, like, the Frieza fight, basically the whole Cell saga, because that whole saga is just peak, and then certain parts of the Buu saga, like the very end of it with Vegito and such. I don't think that there's like maybe any more foundational piece of media for me than like Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z is just like the love of my childhood. Grew up watching the show a bunch. I remember being like in restaurants like Red Robin, and they'd be playing like the Cooler movie on the TV, and that was just awesome. All my friends liked Dragon Ball also. We'd go run around the playground pretending we were these Saiyan characters. We came up with like our own Super Saiyan things like Super Saiyan Emerald back in the day, and now they're doing a bunch of new crazy transformations too, so it's fun seeing that. But that whole, from Dragon Ball Z, the start to the end, that's my favorite part of the Dragon Ball franchise. And I think for most people, that is their favorite parts also. Foundational not for me, but just the whole shonen empire. Everything just takes that love of Dragon Ball Z and has really built off of it with like tournaments, transformations, just everything. The art, it's all fantastic. And if you've only ever watched the anime for Dragon Ball, I would definitely recommend going and reading the manga. Some of it's more gory, more bloody in that original manga format, and I think the pacing is also just more tight. In some of the fights on the anime, you would get like freaking like 4 episodes of Frieza just like talking with Goku. Like they'd be fighting, but it'd mostly just be talking to each other. So I do think the pacing is probably improved in the manga format, because the manga is only 26 volumes, if I remember. So it's a decent size, but it's nothing too crazy long. Absolutely love it. It will always hold a special place in my heart. Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. All right, now we're on the top 2, and these top 2 have not really been able to move at all in my list. Number 1 is basically locked in for forever, I think. But number 2 here is Goodnight Poon or Oyasami Poon, written by Ino Asano. I've read some of his other stuff, but this is really the one that I absolutely love. So this is kind of back in the era of freshman year of college for me, where I rediscovered my love for anime and manga, because some of my friends were just so into that stuff that it made me kind of delve back in and discover quite a few new things like Evangelion, and then Poon was one of them. They didn't really show me Poon, but they also, some of them really enjoyed it. This is something I discovered on my own also, because I was kind of going through like my anime list's top manga of all time, and it was on there, and I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try. And this is a coming of age story that follows our main character Poon throughout a pretty substantial portion of his life. And man, this is a gut-wrenching, dark story. Definitely follows, a lot of the focus is on his love life throughout. Like, I think it starts when he's either in elementary or middle school up to probably his early to mid-20s. And it's just that whole saga, his family, his love life, and some just sheer darkness. Some of the darkest stuff you'll read. So the art, absolutely fantastic art in here. And this was something that was so different than any other manga I had really read at the time. Because a lot of the stuff I had read before, like I said, grew up reading the Shonen Jump. So a lot of it was like Shonen battle manga or stuff like that. This was just like a slice of life look into this person's soul and coming of age and self-discovery and just hardships. Would really recommend this if you're looking for something different in the manga space. And like I said, be warned, you need to be able to handle some real true darkness that people experience or can experience. Absolutely fantastic. I need to go back and read it because I've only read through Poon Poon one time. Kind of just blasted right through the series. I think it's like 98 chapters, if I'm correct. I also have that all right here in the omnibus formats, and that's something I'll be reading back through. Not sure when, but definitely, and I'll be logging it on this channel and talking about the series again in much more depth at that time. And then we have the number one, the GOAT. It's right here. It's Berserk. Berserk's my favorite thing. That's what I've told a lot of people. Berserk's my favorite thing of all time. And this is another one. I discovered Berserk on my own during that college freshman year time. My friends didn't put me on it. I found it myself going through my anime list's top manga. For a long time, it's held that top spot. And I think it hopefully is still there because it's just the greatest of all time. For me, I loved fantasy, dark fantasy, and I had never really read like a more medieval kind of Western style manga really at that point, I don't think. Because like the closest thing I can think of maybe in the shonen wise is like Claymore. And that's like Shonen Jump Plus. So that was more meant for more adult or like older teenagers than like the regular Shonen Jump stuff. But I didn't read all of Claymore back then, and Berserk is just better than Claymore, in my opinion. So getting into Berserk seemed cool, and it definitely was like this focus even on like the covers and stuff I could tell from these two main characters, Guts and Griffith. And man, the journey of Guts and Griffith and Koska is the greatest story of all time, I think. At least from what I've experienced so far in media. Berserk just found me at the right time. I was fairly depressed in that era of my life, and just watching Guts go from literally, you follow Guts from being a baby, from when he's discovered as a baby, up through, I don't know how old he is now, but he's seen a lot, and you've experienced it with him as a reader, and just gone through so much. I think the Golden Age still probably is my favorite. The Golden Age is just the perfect arc in manga. And I always tell people you got to get through the Black Swordsman arc, which is the opening of Berserk. It opens, you kind of set in media res in the story into the middle of Guts' kind of journey, where he's going through some of his darkest times. And then you go back to the very beginning when he's a baby and follow his life chronologically forward from there. And I love that, where you follow a character from their birth or from a very early age all the way up to where they are now, because you really get to know everything that makes them tick, just everything about them. Everything makes sense. You see the world through their eyes. And I love all of that about Berserk. Just such a fantastic journey to go through. The way the world changes, the characters change, the trauma, the action, and the art. Just some of the most amazing art you're ever going to see in your life. So, yes, like I said, Golden Age is probably my favorite, still flawless, but I still love everything past there. And I'll admit, Berserk is not perfect. It has some flaws in it, but to me, it's the greatest of all time. I don't think maybe anything can displace Berserk ever that I read. I'm open to it, but it's just had such a profound impact on me. Like I said, I found Berserk at the right time. The story, some of the story beats and things that happen to the character resonated on me with such a deep level at that time that it has just wormed its way into my heart and is implaceable. So if you haven't read Berserk, basically all my closest friends, really good friends from college, I put them on Berserk. They all love Berserk now. It's just such a wonderful tale. And if you love fantasy, because this channel, I mostly talk about traditional books now, but if you love fantasy, you owe it to yourself to try Berserk out if you're able to go through some of this dark truly dark stuff, horrific things, and you're open to dark fantasy, you need to give Berserk a shot. So that about covers it here for my top 5 manga of all time as of, early 2025. I definitely need to go back through and start reading more manga again. My girlfriend reads quite a bit of manga, but for me, it's actually been a while. Besides Chainsaw Man, haven't kept up on that much. One thing I do have right there is the Ghost in the Shell complete manga collection. And I love the Ghost in the Shell movie. And I know the manga's different. There's basically so many different iterations of Ghost in the Shell. And Science Saru, if you're familiar with the anime studio, is doing an adaptation that's more directly from the manga. So I want to go back through and read all of that, and that's definitely probably the first manga I'll talk about here on the channel. But I think that about covers it for today. Please let me know your top 5 or your honorable mentions or how you feel about my list here. I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Other than that, have a good one and take care.